We have some major updates to talk about in today's episode of the Rams Digest, like Matthew Stafford getting traded to the Giants. Is he going to get traded at all? What is the conversation about that? It's been going on for a couple of weeks now. We're going to talk all about it. We're also going to break down Cooper Kupp and the details on what the Rams could expect in a return for Cooper Kupp via a trade. And we're also going to break down the trivia of the day, all on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and press that subscribe button, as 74.8% of you guys are watching the videos but still not subscribed to the channel. Do me a favor and press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. It's been a few days that's not been daily for me. I've been very, very busy these last couple weeks. Long story, work, and all that good stuff. But we're going to get ready to talk about the Rams every single day from here on out. I promise I'll try not to miss any more days moving forward. Let's get into this first bit of news here. Matthew Stafford trade. I get it. We're tired of talking about it. Many people don't want to hear about Matthew Stafford being traded. I actually saw a cool breakdown on Twitter of someone breaking down why the Rams shouldn't trade Matthew Stafford, right? Why it just doesn't make any sense if we're talking about next season, how the Rams can be the best team possible out there, why you shouldn't trade Matthew Stafford, as he's probably your best option to succeed as a team. Well, ultimately, we can't escape these rumors, and the rumors are still happening right now. As a couple of days ago, this came out. The Rams reportedly want the Giants' first-round pick in 2025 for Matthew Stafford, or in the 2025 NFL draft for Matthew Stafford. Of course, that is kind of a little bit of a crazy asking price, I think. I think what's kind of interesting about this conversation, this is kind of why I wanted to have this conversation. I've seen many Rams fans say, no way, don't trade Matthew Stafford. We don't care. We would not do this trade. And it's not many of them, and I get it. There are some Rams fans who are being more realistic about the situation. But if the Giants at any point put this trade on the table and you're the Rams, you're accepting this deal immediately if you're left Snead. That is insane for you to go get the third overall pick in the draft for a 37-year-old quarterback. That wouldn't happen. The Giants wouldn't do this, and we can even pull this up now. I think there are something I have here. Here is Adam Schefter from the ESPN talking about the situation. He says there's no way in hell that the Giants would trade the number 3 pick to the Rams for Matthew Stafford. That pick is not in the conversation. If Matthew Stafford and the Rams can't get a deal worked out, and if Matthew Stafford becomes available, and all of a sudden the Giants surface as a contender, if all those things happen, and they could, if all those things happen, there is no way in hell that the Giants would be giving up the 3rd overall pick for Matthew Stafford. 0% chance. And that's kind of the reality that we're living in. So if you're a Rams fan out there who's saying, I wouldn't even trade Matthew Stafford for a 3rd overall pick in the draft, that's insane. But also, it's not going to happen. That's not a realistic trade offer from the Giants to the Rams for Matthew Stafford. Just wouldn't happen. That's crazy. Whoever the GM for the Giants would immediately be fired, I would assume. And so it's not something that's going to be signed off on. That's not something we can expect. If the Rams did trade Matthew Stafford, which at this moment in time, it seems like Stafford is going to play for the Rams next season. If they were somehow, some way to trade Matthew Stafford eventually, it would not be for a pick like that. So when we're talking about trading Matthew Stafford, that's kind of why I wanted to bring this conversation up. One, if you're a Rams fan that doesn't want to trade him for that 3rd overall pick, you're crazy. But 2, if you do want to trade Matthew Stafford or you're interested in looking into the possibility of what it would look like if you trade Matthew Stafford, here is what it would probably be a little more realistic. Okay, here are a couple of trade options, not just from the Giants, but here's the New York Giants trade package. It would be the Rams getting a 2nd-round pick, number 34 overall, from the Giants, and a 2026 2nd-round pick. Giants get Matthew Stafford in the situation. Even in this scenario, I feel like this is the Giants giving up still a little bit too much. I think that 2nd pick, if you get the second-round pick from the Giants, 34 overall, you could probably expect maybe a 4th, a 5th to be tagged on top of that. But again, Matthew Stafford is a 37-year-old quarterback. Very good quarterback still, but a 37-year-old quarterback. It just doesn't make sense for the New York Giants to go ahead and trade multiple top picks for a guy like Matthew Stafford, when in reality, he's just at the end of his career. It doesn't make sense for the Giants. So if somehow, some way the Giants were involved, I would expect a 2nd-round pick, maybe. And then also like a 4th or a 5th-round pick tagged on top of it. It seems like a little bit for a quarterback, a starting quarterback like Matthew Stafford. But at this point in his career, that just makes a little bit more sense, in my opinion, if you're talking about trading Matthew Stafford, which maybe Rams fans wouldn't want to even touch that deal. I get it. But I just think that's a little more of a realistic expectation in terms of what your return would be, especially if the situation sours and you know Matthew Stafford wants to be traded. The other team's going to try to give up the least amount as possible, right? So moving on to a realistic one, another realistic option. Minnesota Vikings trade package, they would trade a 1st-round pick, number 24 overall, so the end of the 1st round. That's it. Simple as that. They get Matthew Stafford in return. So obviously the Vikings are in a situation where they either are going to start their rookie quarterback who didn't play a game in the regular season, maybe you start J.J. McCarthy, or you sign Sam Darnold and you have him be your starting quarterback, or you go ahead and trade your first overall pick for Matthew Stafford. That's if they really want to be win now at this time. After their experiment with Kirk Cousins and how that failed, I don't see the Vikings going down that route. I think if you're a Vikings fan, you'd rather them just pay Sam Darnold a little bit and just have J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold battle it out in Minnesota and then just see who the better of the two is. I think that'd probably be a more realistic option for the Vikings, but they really wanted to go all in and win right now to compete with Detroit and all these other teams in the NFC, like the Philadelphia Eagles. I think maybe this is possible, but I really don't think it's realistic. I think if I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, like I said, Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, let them battle it out. Let's figure it out from there. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know how you Vikings fans feel, but that's where I'm at in that situation. But a first-round pick for Stafford would be nice. And last but not least, that is not the trade I wanted to pull up. I wanted to pull up this one, as you guys got a sneak peek of some of the other things we're going to talk about. Here is another option. The Pittsburgh Steelers possibly trading for Matthew Stafford. Again, to me, if I'm a Steelers fan, I can't see many Steelers fans wanting to do this deal. But sure, Pittsburgh Steelers trade package. 2025 first-round pick, number 21 overall. 2025 second-round pick, number 52 overall. Conditional 2026 second-round pick. Could be a first if Stafford plays 65% of snaps. So we're talking about a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and another second-round pick in 2026 for Matthew Stafford. And, of course, in this situation, because that is asking a lot, the Pittsburgh Steelers will get a first-round pick in return. So the Rams essentially move up in the first round. They get a second-round pick on top of that, and they also get a future second-round pick. So similar to that Minnesota deal, except in this scenario here, you have the Steelers and the Rams swapping first-round picks this season. Again, I think still asking a little bit too much. And also, I just think, again, if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, do I really want to go all in for an aging veteran quarterback? You just saw that with Russell Wilson. Yes, you won some games, but ultimately, I mean, what is the route that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going? I know you're winning games. I just don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers looking at this as their next best chance to win a Super Bowl, going out and getting Matthew Stafford. It just doesn't seem realistic, in my opinion. So overall, right, those are three top teams that maybe would be interested in training for Matthew Stafford. Maybe you could say the Tennessee Titans are in the conversation, the Las Vegas Raiders are in the conversation, but there aren't that many teams out there who want a quarterback, an aging quarterback at that. So I just don't see a realistic option for the Rams in terms of trading Matthew Stafford. So therefore, I don't see it happening. I think they're going to have to work a deal out with him. But why does this conversation keep happening? Why do we keep talking about trading Matthew Stafford? Well, here's a little bit of a scenario here to talk about. And I'm bringing this story up. It's far-fetched. I really do feel like this is a far-fetched scenario. But I'm bringing this up because there was some interesting points made here. Far-fetched or fathomable, can't say that word, exploring Aaron Rodgers to the Rams. So in this conversation and this situation, they're talking about trading Matthew Stafford and the Rams signing Aaron Rodgers to replace Matthew Stafford. Now, why does the media, or why do these reports and stories keep coming out? Why do they want to trade Matthew Stafford so badly? It's not that they want to trade Stafford. I think it's that there's a realistic issue here in LA with Stafford being here in LA. That one, in my personal opinion, this doesn't have anything to do with the article. My personal opinion is the Rams may not feel like they have a chance to win next year. I know they looked really good this year, but if internally they don't believe they can win, I've talked about this on the channel before, then maybe they want to move in a different route. Maybe they want to move on from Stafford now to try to get as many picks as possible so they can try to find that next quarterback down the road. Not next season, because you probably wouldn't find one next year, but down the road they want to find one because they don't maybe believe they can win next season. That's just a possibility in the room for the Rams. But also, here's some other interesting conversations to have. So here's the details here. This is coming from Colin Cowherd. He says the Rams like Matthew Stafford, of course, right? We know that. But they are tiring of the constant quarterback talk. His wife saying things publicly. I know Rams fans have had an opinion about that. I don't really have an opinion about that, but sure. Maybe some Rams fans and the Rams themselves internally don't like it. They're not real happy with Cooper Kupp. I think that's possible. That they're not real happy with him going public with something they tried to keep quiet. They're kind of over Cooper Kupp, and with that, maybe a little bit of Matthew Stafford. They like him, but they don't want to restructure his deal and give him a big contract. That is a very real issue right now with Los Angeles Rams. I don't think they want to give him more than $4 million guaranteed. I mean, maybe they do want to give him more than $4 million guaranteed just to be a decent franchise, to a franchise legend. But also, I don't think they want to give him $40 million. guaranteed. They don't want to give him a 1 year, $40 million contract like he just got last year, right? Something around that range. And so I think that's the issue we're having right now with the Rams. They don't want to extend Matthew Stafford for 3 seasons. They think he's going to be maybe good for 1 more, right? And so I think that's probably the realistic scenario going on right now. They're trading one of his buddies in Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp came out openly and told everybody about it. And so now the Rams are going to get less value, which we'll talk about in a second, but they're going to get less value for Cooper Kupp because of it. Matthew Stafford's wife now saying that there's issues, maybe possibly, maybe not really, but she kind of was insinuating there's some kind of frustration internally with herself, at least in this scenario. So maybe Stafford's feeling that as well. And if that's the case, well, guess what? Now you just publicly announced that Cooper Kupp are one of our prized possessions that maybe we could have got a decent amount for in a trade, who we actually want to trade. Now we're going to get less for him because he already openly said he's getting traded. Now Matthew Stafford and his wife are voicing frustrations. Now, if we did want to trade Stafford, we're going to get even less for that. So that there could be some frustration internally from the Rams. Now, again, if they're a good organization, I think you have to respect your legends, be a little more careful about this, because right now it's getting a little bit ugly and sloppy already. I think we got to handle this a little bit more delicately because there are NFL legends and Rams legends who have won a Super Bowl for you on this roster that you're dealing with. But ultimately, do the Rams want to win next year? That's a question they have to ask themselves. If they do want to win next season, Stafford's probably the best route. But if they don't want to win next season, or they don't believe Stafford gives them a real chance to win next season, then maybe they want to trade Cooper Kupp and Stafford like we've been talking about. And if that's the case, then things have already gotten pretty sloppy. So very, very rocky situation going on there. That's kind of why there's a real issue, I think, with the Rams, with Stafford being on the roster next year, but we'll have to wait and see if there's actually truth to all of it, if there's actually true frustration from Les Snead and people inside that building for the Los Angeles Rams. We'll have to wait and see on that, but that is kind of where we're at, I think, with the Stafford situation and why the conversation keeps kind of coming up about him possibly being traded. But one person that really has no choice in the trade talk, I mean, he's already openly said himself that he's getting traded, is Cooper Kupp. And so what can the Rams expect in a return for Cooper Kupp? Well, we could talk about this right now as we pull this story up. Here is the story. When will Rams trade Cooper Kupp, and what will they get back? NFL Insider reveals LA's timeline and their asking price, right? And so that's kind of an interesting conversation to have. He's already admitted goodbye, waving goodbye. It's over. Here's a goodbye video and post. Here's a Puka Nacua told me goodbye publicly, right? All these people saying goodbye and that they're sad to see Cooper Kupp go. He's still on the roster, right? They haven't even traded him yet. So that's official. It seems like it's going to there's no going back from that. Maybe they can kind of fix that, but we'll see if that's going to change from at all. But here's the realistic scenario of the timeline and what they can get back for Cooper Kupp in a trade. Cooper Kupp, Insider believes Rams could trade Cooper Kupp before mid-March. Here's Albert Breer saying that that's kind of the situation here. But he said, here's his quote, "I think they agreed to a trade before the beginning of the league year in mid-March. As for the return, I'd say probably a day 3 pick." So we're talking about, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round pick. Remember, the contract will weigh down any negotiation. He's due $7.5 million roster bonus on St. Patrick's Day, hence the urgency to move him before then. And $5 million of it is fully guaranteed, and another $12.5 million in non-guaranteed base salary. He's not going to make $20 million next year, so the Rams' willingness to pay some of it, or even all of it, the roster bonus, and Kupp's willingness to take less in base salary will be needed to make a deal happen. So a little bit of complexities there in terms of Cooper Kupp's contract situation with him getting traded, but ultimately the Rams are going to pay him a little bit of money to go ahead and play for somebody else next year, and that's kind of a rocky scenario that makes it difficult for the Rams to expect much in a return via trade for Cooper Kupp, which is kind of why I was leaning towards maybe you just give him a 1-year extension with Matthew Stafford and you kind of let them play it out one more year. But ultimately, if they are already making the move to trade him, then you have to do that very, very soon. And you have to expect, if you're a Rams fan, a pretty low amount in terms of the return you get for him. 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, maybe a 5th and a 7th, something around that range in terms of the return you would get for Cooper Kupp. Unfortunate, but that's the reality I think that we're living in for Los Angeles Rams. Last but not least, before we get out of here, trivia of the day. We've been doing this last few videos I was doing. I know not many people have been seeing them, so stick tuned every video. We're going to do a trivia of the day every single episode. Last episode, we actually pulled up this as the trivia of the day. The question was, with his 6th Super Bowl ring in 2018, Tom Brady surpassed what Hall of Famer for most career Super Bowl victories? The answer to that question, I don't have it typed out anywhere, but the answer to that question was Charles Haley. Charles Haley had 5 Super Bowl rings, and as of 2018, Tom Brady took his 6th Super Bowl ring for the most Super Bowl rings of all time. He now has 7, of course. Tom Brady far and beyond anybody who is close. Maybe Patrick Mahomes catches up to him one day, but at this point in time, Brady has 7. Charles Haley, number 2, with 5. We did have one guest, though. One guest out there, so I appreciate the guest. Shout out to Daniel. He says, I have no idea. I'm a guest, Jerry Rice. It was a good guess. I know Jerry Rice is always flaunting his rings out there in San Francisco. So, appreciate this guess right here from Daniel, but ultimately was incorrect. It was Charles Haley with 5. Jerry Rice only has 3. For some reason, I thought he had more too, but Charles Haley was the answer for that trivia question. And the last trivia question before we end it on the day. As a Chief, who became the only defensive lineman in the modern NFL history to run for a touchdown and throw for a touchdown in his career? I'll give you guys a few seconds to type out your answer. I'll read it out one more time. As a Chief, who became the only defensive lineman in modern NFL history to run for a touchdown and throw for a touchdown in his career? Give you guys a few seconds. Let you type out your answers. If you don't have it, don't worry. I'll give you guys some multiple choice guesses here. Is it A, Don Terry Poe? Is it B, Neil Smith? Is it C, Bill Mass? Or is it D, Jared Allen? Type your guesses down below. We'll give you guys the answers on next episode. It's funny, I actually kind of knew this answer. Right when I saw the trivia, I guessed it myself before I put the answer up. And I knew the answer. I guessed, but I had a feeling for some reason. I had a guess, and I was right. So you guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you hit your comment down below. Let me know what you guys are guessing, what you're feeling, and we'll give you the trivia answer at the end of my next episode tomorrow. That's gonna do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Josh Giron. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you guys haven't subscribed already. That's gonna do it for me on today's episode, and I am out.